There we go again. This week I have mostly been looking like a Wolverine. All change for next week, but for now it's worth a laugh. So last week I gave you the 360-degree virtual tour of EDJ Publishing head office. This week, to kick off the promotion of the forthcoming and final part of the trilogy's release in June, I thought I'd do an expose and recap of books 1 and 2 to set the scene for the teasers for book 3, which will come out over the next few weeks. So, book 1. Naivety on my behalf gave book 1 a slightly slower start. So before we reach any of the action, I build up the characters, but that sort of does for me what I always liked about a good book or a good film, and gives a basis of where the characters come from and a bit of background about where they live and sort of where their lives are at. So the main protagonist is named Brody. He's a frustrated and unfulfilled individual, drifting along with life. His best friend, who is referred to as Cash, we find to be the sensible side of a pair of best buddies. He's the straight down the middle, Mr. Reliable, to Brody's shoot from the hip, ask no questions or ask questions later type arrangement. So Cash's name, which is a bit unusual, I won't go into too much detail, as I think I may have mentioned it before, was coined by Brody at school and was originally the hard to pronounce Cameloxerigit Bashir, which Brody changes and eventually ends up being Cash. When Brody gets a new career opportunity working with his old friend, he soon meets the delectable Charlie, or we might call her Charlie, and who up until that meeting he's spoken to on the phone and didn't realise that it wasn't Charlie, as in Charlie with an IE. So Brody then meets her and is immediately smitten and spends much of his spare time over the next couple of years trying to win her affection. Then on one fateful day, as he's just about to run a final test on a major project, it seems as if she's agreed to a date. Flustered and excited, Brody lapses concentration and makes a silly error, which catapults his transportation experiment into another reality, and he becomes trapped in an alternate state where everything and everybody he encounters seem to be strangely familiar but unnervingly sinister. He first meets the main antagonist of the piece, Evet Z. Zirar, who is something of an evil enigma of a man who uses people to delay and confound Brody's attempts to get home. He sends an alter ego of Charlie to capture him and detain him. We meet the doppelganger known as Charlotte, and Charlotte, controlled by Evet, uses any means necessary to restrain Brody, including gratuitous sex and violence. So there's plenty of interest and intrigue going on there. So Brody slowly realises that there are all three of them, himself, Charlotte and Evet, are intrinsically entwined in their destinies. Many individual smaller adventures ensue, including him making a new friend of an Indian chief named Kuber, who somehow reminds him of Cash. But overall, he must desperately find a way to escape Charlotte's clutches and thwart Everett's plans for universal domination and some apocalyptic Armageddon. He's got to save reality itself and then get himself back to Cash and especially Charlie. So I'll leave it there and recap in book 1 next week. I'll leave it there and recap book 2 next week. So that we can complete it all, and hopefully I'll next time have a new hairstyle and maybe a new beard or other facial hair. So I look forward to speaking to you next week. Have a look at edjpublishing.com and maybe buy a copy to read all about the further exploits of what I've described there. And hopefully look forward to seeing you next week. Cheers then, take care, bye-bye.